In the grand, silent amphitheater of the Galactic Council, the air was practically dripping with smug satisfaction. For decades, the elder races, the crystalline Vorith, the hulking Krell, and the ethereal Jather, had guided the galaxy with a steady, if completely arrogant hand. And today, they had just corrected what they saw as a nagging error. They had expelled humanity. High Lord Vorlag, of the Vorith, his crystalline facets, shimmering with self-congratulatory light, addressed the assembly. "Let the record show," he announced, "that on this day, the Council has purged itself of its most volatile and unpredictable element. The humans, with their chaotic emotions, their primitive tribalism, and their frankly irritating persistence, are no longer our concern. They've been relegated to their lonely little star system, a cosmic footnote. The age of reason can now truly begin." Laughter. A weird cascade of chimes and deep rumbles filled the chamber. These were the architects of destiny, the gatekeepers of civilization. They had just dismissed the upstarts from the death world of Earth, a species barely out of its planetary cradle, who had somehow stumbled upon faster-than-light travel and then had the nerve to demand a seat at the table. The humans had been tolerated, sure, as a chaotic but sometimes useful tool, but their constant questioning, their refusal to just shut up and obey, their absurd ideas about individual rights, it had all just gotten so tiresome. So, they were cast out. No one noticed the cold, quiet fury in the eyes of the last human ambassador, Elena Vasquez, as she was escorted out. No one cared. Humanity had been a brief, annoying chapter in their history. Now, that chapter was closed. The galaxy, they believed, was better for it. They had absolutely no idea they had just signed their own death warrant. Look, kicking humanity out wasn't a rash decision. It was the grand finale of a century of galactic condescension. When humans first showed up, our technology was a mess, a hodgepodge of reverse-engineered junk and brute-force engineering. Our ships were ugly, loud, and burned fuel like crazy. The Council races, with their sleek vessels that hummed in perfect harmony with the cosmos, saw us as little more than clever apes who'd found a bigger stick. The Vorith, the galaxy's self-appointed philosophers, decided human emotion was a fundamental design flaw. How can a species that weeps at art and rages at insults ever be trusted with galactic stability? Vorlag had once argued. They are slaves to their biology, a storm of hormones and irrational impulses. And that pretty much became the official story. Humans were too emotional for diplomacy, too aggressive for peacekeeping, and way too unpredictable for any long-term planning. Then there were the Krell, the hulking warrior race that acted as the Council's fist. They thought humanity's military was a complete joke. Our tactics were messy, our strategies were unorthodox, and our victories were usually chalked up to sheer dumb luck. The Krell fought with honor and tradition in clean, neat lines of battle. Humans? We used guerrilla tactics, deception, and what Krell commanders sniffed at as asymmetrical warfare. We didn't fight with honor. We fought to win, a distinction the Krell found barbaric. The final insult came during the Jethiar border dispute. The Githar, beings of pure energy, had claimed a resource-rich nebula that happened to be a key trade route for a human colony. Humanity argued for a diplomatic solution, a shared-use treaty. Ambassador Elena Vasquez presented a meticulously researched proposal, packed with economic projections and mutual benefits. High Lord Vorlag didn't even read it. He just declared the Jethiar claim was absolute and told the ambassador that if humans couldn't compete, they should stay home. When Vasquez protested, citing council law, Vorlag had her microphone muted. "Your laws," he'd said, his voice dripping with disdain, "are like the squabbles of children. You are not our equals. You are a problem to be managed." That was the moment the real decision was made. Not by the council, but by humanity. Days later, when the official vote for expulsion was cast, we didn't protest. We didn't beg. Ambassador Vasquez simply stood, delivered a short, formal withdrawal from all council treaties, and walked away. The Vorith and their allies saw it as us admitting we were inferior. They celebrated their wisdom. The silence from the Sol system was interpreted as the sulking of a punished child. In reality, it was the silence of a forge. 50 years went by. On the galactic timescale, it's the blink of an eye. The Galactic Council was thriving, its trade routes were secure, and its political dominance was absolute. Humanity was all but forgotten. a dusty footnote in the archives. Our star system was quarantined, a no-fly zone that was kept up more out of habit than any real fear. Stories of the emotional, chaotic humans became cautionary tales for young alien diplomats. Then, the whispers started. Small things, at first. A Vorith listening post on the edge of the Perseus Vela, notoriously nasty region of space that had long been declared impassable, went silent. A repair crew was sent. They found no wreckage, no distress signal. The station and its 20 crew members had just vanished. A navigational error, the council concluded. The Vale is a dangerous place. A decade later, a Krell battle group on patrol near our forbidden sector reported a strange energy signature. It was a ghost on their sensors, there and then gone, showing a complexity their systems couldn't even analyze. The Krell commander, hungry for a little glory, took his squadron to investigate. They were never heard from again. A council inquiry decided the commander had acted recklessly, chasing a sensor ghost into an asteroid field. Case closed, but the incidents kept happening like a drumbeat, getting slowly louder. A freighter vanished. A research vessel went dark. All of them on the fringes of known space, and all of them weirdly close to that dark, silent corner of the galaxy where we'd been sent to think about our mistakes. A few low-level analysts started to see a pattern, string of disappearances that drew a perimeter around a vast, unexplored region. Their reports were promptly buried in paperwork. The council leadership was busy arguing over luxury. Its fabrics and didn't have time for paranoia from junior officers. Meanwhile, back in the Sol system and deep inside the Perseus Vale, humanity wasn't reflecting. It was reforging itself. Getting kicked out was the best thing that ever could have happened to us. It unified humanity in a way 1,000 years of peace never could. The squabbling nations of Earth became one people with one single purpose: first survival, and then vengeance. We stripped our worlds for resources. We turned our best minds not to art or philosophy, but to the cold, hard physics of blowing things up. We didn't just advance. We evolved. We learned to navigate the Perseus Vale, not by fighting its gravitic tides, but by dancing with them. We built forges in the hearts of dying stars to create impossible new alloys. We mastered quantum entanglement, not for chatting, but for instantaneous, untraceable FTL traveler, little something we called reality fracture translation. We didn't build ships. We forged weapons, and every single one was a monument to 50 years of cold, calculated rage. We built 1,000 of them. And back on the Council's capital world, High Lord Vorlag was unveiling a monument to the 50 years of uninterrupted reason. The galaxy was at peace. It was orderly. It was perfect. And it was completely, utterly blind to the storm that was about to break. The first sign that everything was about to end appeared without any warning. High above the capital city of Gethia Prime, a sliver of pure darkness just tore itself into existence. There was no flash, no energy burst. 1 second empty space. The next, a ship was just hanging there, silent and motionless. It was like nothing the Council had ever seen. The hull was a matte black that seemed to drink the light from the nearby star. It was all sharp angles and predatory lines, a design that didn't whisper exploration, it screamed aggression. It had no logos, no transponder code. It just waited. The Council Defense Fleet, a proud armada of 100 Krell warships led by Admiral Gorak, scrambled to intercept. Gorak was a veteran who believed in one thing: overwhelming force. He hailed the ship. No reply. He scanned it. The results that came back were impossible. The ship's energy core was putting out the power of a small star, yet it was running completely cold. Its shields were a design they couldn't even begin to understand. Unidentified vessel. Gorak broadcast, his voice booming across all channels. You have violated Council space. Identify yourself, or you will be fired upon. The only response was a faint shimmer in the space around the dark ship. Gorak sneered. A pirate with a new toy. He'd make an example of them. Fire a warning shot, he commanded. A Krell cruiser fired a lance of plasma, a brilliant spear of energy that could crack an asteroid in half. The bolt crossed the void and hit the ship's shield. It didn't explode. It didn't flare out. The energy simply vanished. It was absorbed without a trace. For the first time, Gorak's confidence started to crack. He ordered a full volley. 10 cruisers fired at once. A storm of plasma and kinetic rounds slammed into the silent ship, And again, nothing happened. The energy was just swallowed, leaving the ship completely untouched. Down in the council chamber, the delegates watched on the main view screen, their smug chatter dying into a stunned silence. Then the ship hailed them. On the bridge of Gorak's flagship and on the main screen in the council chamber, an image appeared. It was a man, his face grim, etched with lines that spoke of immense pressure and zero tolerance for failure. He wore a simple dark gray uniform, with a single insignia on the collar, a blue earth rising over a silver sword. "I am Admiral Jorik Vance of the Unified Earth Fleet," he said, his voice as cold and empty as the void itself. "You stand accused of the unjust censure and illegal exile of the human species. You have mistaken our silence for surrender. That was your final mistake." High Lord Vorlag, his crystalline form pulsing with outrage, strode forward. "Admiral, this insolence will not be tolerated. Your single, pathetic ship stands against the might of this council. Surrender now, and we may yet be merciful." Admiral Vance's expression didn't change. Not a single flicker of emotion. "Mercy," he repeated, the word tasting like ash. "You speak of mercy? We aren't here to seek mercy. We're here to deliver a verdict." He paused, letting the silence stretch, letting the terror build. "The age of your council is over. The age of the human empire has begun." Admiral Gorak of the Krell had heard enough. This wasn't a negotiation. It was an insult to his entire race. Pure rage crushed his brief flicker of fear, and he gave the order he was born to give. "All ships, fire at will. Obliterate that vessel." But just as his weapons officer's claws moved to their controls, the universe broke. On the view screen and in the sky above the planet, 1,000 identical tiers in reality opened in perfect, terrifying sync. From each tier, a black, angular warship emerged, 1,000 of them, all identical to the one that had just laughed off the Krell fleet. They formed a sphere of blades around the Council Armada, a cage with no escape. For a second, there was just silence. The Krell crews stared at their screens, their brains unable to process the scale of what just happened. 1,000 ships. An entire armada had appeared from nowhere, in an instant, in perfect formation. It was tactically, technologically, and fundamentally impossible. On the bridge of the human flagship, the Retribution, Admiral Vance gave a single, quiet order. Execute. What happened next wasn't a battle. It was a slaughter. It was the cold, dispassionate efficiency of a predator taking apart its prey. The human warships unleashed their primary weapons, gravity lances. They didn't fire plasma or lasers. They fired localized. High-intensity, gravitational. Fields black spears of twisted space-time that shot across the void. The first lance hit a Krell heavy cruiser. The ship's mighty shields, designed to stop energy and matter, just died. They weren't built to repel the fundamental forces of the universe. The lance hit the cruiser midship, and the vessel simply folded in on itself. Crushed into a ball of scrap metal. It's no bigger than a fighter before it exploded in a silent flash. Panic. Pure panic erupted across the Krell fleet. They fired wildly, their energy beams splashing harmlessly against those strange, absorbent human shields. Krell commanders screamed orders, but their formations were useless. The humans didn't even move in formations. They danced. Their reality fracture drives let them make instant short-range jumps, disappearing from one spot and reappearing in another. They were ghosts, firing from impossible angles, their lances piercing hulls and snapping the spines of dreadnoughts. Admiral Gorak watched in absolute horror as his fleet, the pride of the galaxy, was torn to shreds. He saw the Indomitable, a ship that had broken the siege of Zelos all by itself, get cored by 3 lances at once, its reactor blowing up in a miniature supernova. He saw his best fighter squadrons swatted from the sky by human point defense systems that seemed to see the future. His own flagship shuddered as a gravity lance grazed its port side. The gravitational shear ripped half the ship away, venting atmosphere and crew into space. Alarms shrieked, and Gorak was thrown against a bulkhead, his hardened carapace cracking. He dragged himself back to his command throne, staring at the tactical display. Red icons were blinking out one after another. 70% of his fleet was gone. 80, 90. The entire battle had lasted 6 minutes through the viewport of his shattered bridge. Gorak saw the lead human ship, the Retribution, drift closer. Its main weapon was pointed right at him, On his last working monitor, the face of Admiral Jorg Vance appeared again. His expression was exactly the same. "You were saying something about mercy?" Vance asked. Gorak could only stare. His warrior's pride, his species' arrogance, all of it burned away, leaving only the pure, primal terror of a creature facing its own extinction. The last thing Admiral Gorak ever saw was the silent, black spear of gravity reaching out to claim him. Conclusion: the new order down in the Galactic Council chamber. The only sound was the ragged, panicked breathing of the delegates. High Lord Vorlag stood frozen, his crystalline form flickering as he watched the last of his mighty fleet get wiped from the view screen. The symbols of 1,000 human warships now formed a calm, terrifying ring around his planet. The war was already over. They had lost before they even knew they were fighting. The face of Admiral Vance filled the screen one last time. He wasn't looking at Vorlag. His gaze seemed to sweep across the entire terrified room. For 50 years, we lived in peace. A peace bought with our exile. Vance's voice echoed through the chamber. You dismissed us. You mocked us. You believed your power was absolute. You learned today that there is always a bigger predator lurking in the dark. He paused. This world is now under human authority. Your council is disbanded. Your fleets are forfeit. We will be taking the resources we require, and we will be settling old scores. Some of you, he said, and his eyes seemed to land on the trembling representatives of the Krell and Vorith, will face tribunals for crimes against the human species. You cast us into the darkness, and in that darkness, we were forged anew. You wanted a galaxy without humanity. Instead, you will have a galaxy ruled by it. This is not a negotiation. This is the new order. Welcome to the human empire. The transmission ended, leaving only the static image of the Earthan sword insignia. High Lord Vorlag stared at it, the symbol of the primitive species he had so casually thrown away. He no longer saw a chaotic child, but a vengeful god. The arrogance that had defined his entire life collapsed into one crushing realization: their age of reason hadn't been built on logic and order, but on a foolish, fatal underestimation. They had thrown a stone into the dark, and in return, the dark had thrown back a mountain. So what do you think? Did the Council get what it deserved? If you enjoyed seeing humanity's fiery return to the galactic stage, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more stories like this. What do you think the first act of the new human empire should be? Total domination, or something else? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching.